Hello, and welcome to EURAXESS Smart Talks.
The Smart Talks podcast series is an EU-funded EURAXESS project which provides information and assistance to researchers at any career stage.
EURAXESS supports the EU research area in its ambition to create a single borderless market for research, innovation and technology in the EU.
We support researchers in mobility, careers within and outside academia, innovation and entrepreneurship.
We strive to increase scientific collaboration between Europe and the world. Hi, I'm Daria, a senior expert at EURAXESS National Contact Point in Latvia.
And I'm Jovan, a teaching and research assistant from the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering in Niš, Serbia.
And you are listening to the EURAXESS Smart Talks podcast.
Today's guest is Dr. Monika Golińska, a biochemist and cancer researcher whose work bridges institutions across Europe, including the Medical University of Łódź and Cancer Research UK Cambridge Institute.
She leads a Marie Skłodowska-Curie funded project exploring the link between endometriosis and ovarian cancer using cutting-edge spatial biology and photoacoustic imaging techniques. Hello, Monika. Welcome to our podcast. So let's start from the very beginning. Introduce yourself, please. Tell us a little bit more about you and also how challenging or otherwise how good it was to implement mobility in your career.
Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk with you today. I'm Monika Golińska and I'm a scientist, and my passion is endometriosis. So that's a disease where women can experience infertility, chronic pain. As was mentioned, I am a Marie Skłodowska-Curie Fellow, currently leading my project at Medical University of Łódź with Professor Fendler, who's an expert on biostatistics and bioinformatics. And I've done my PhD at the University of Cambridge, and I still collaborate with them. And also, as a Marie Skłodowska-Curie Fellow, I'm part of MCAA policy working group where I get exposed to different policies around research careers and research assessment. Yeah, and I think that's it for the introduction.
And regarding the main topic of today's episode, what was your first experience with research mobility and what motivated you to take the first steps in it?
Okay, so the very, very first experience of research mobility was a summer school organized between Denmark and Sweden. So basically, I was in my second year of university, and I just seen it as a great opportunity just to go abroad and meet new people. And also my main motivation was access to labs, because back then in Poland, well, we didn't really have very good access as students, so we were mostly watching other people doing experiments, so not much hands-on experience. So I was very happy and curious to see how things are done. And also, again, meeting new people and just understanding how research is done in another country. So this was like my main motivation and the first experience. And then I followed it with the Erasmus exchange. So again, went to Denmark, the Technical University of Denmark, where I studied for 6 months, and I really liked it. And this experience was also important for me to understand that I want to experience mobility a bit more. That was one. And secondly, that I truly want to stay in research. So just having this hands-on experience.
What about this common, stereotypes, maybe, that when you move to another country, you have to get accustomed with everything, how it is going on there, and all the challenges like documents, bureaucracy, everything is new. How are you adapting, I would say, to this? Maybe it's very easy for you, but for someone it's very challenging. How would you reflect on that?
Okay, so twofold. So I wouldn't say it's easy for anybody. It's always rather stressful that you don't have some sort of national insurance number, you don't know where you're going to live, etc., etc. So maybe in mobility, there are two kind of types of mobilities. Like one could be a program where universities help you organize accommodation that is nicer than just kind of going on your own and sorting everything out. So I would say this is, like, okay, if you want to experience mobility, another culture, different people, then this is something you have to invest in. So I would say, as long as you have support from your host in terms of, okay, at the beginning, you need a bit of time to go and, I don't know, go to some sort of office, sign something, go to a bank, have a bank account. That's manageable. So, okay, it's tricky, but I think most of us can manage.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, you can, it's a research agreement. You can ask your host university, okay, who can help me out with this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely exists. The issues definitely exist, but I think one can manage.
And being more specific, you mentioned programs. What roles do you see that programs, European mobility programs such as Maria Skłodowska-Curie Actions, play in the lives of researchers?
So I would say, of course, I am myself very grateful for the program, and I think they are amazing in exactly the whole program being organized. So at least you know where you're going, you have your project, you have your money, and also you have um, well, some sort of reputation. So you're being treated, let's say, seriously. So as I say, I am, European mobility program like Marie Curie played a great role in my life. So I'm very grateful for that because it allowed me to move back to Poland. And I kind of never envisaged I'm going to be living abroad for so many years. Just left to go to do my PhD, and then I ended up staying for much, much longer. So the programs give you a framework, a structure to work with. And I think this is like a good time to give like a big shout out to Marie Curie, MCAA as a whole, but also as their annual conference. So I find the conference really, really good because if you struggle, you go to a conference and you find that everybody else also struggled with the same or with something different. So one is you find lots of people who had the same issues. So you feel like, oh yeah, okay, I'm not alone. Then you
Mm-hmm.
find people who had completely different issues and you think, perfect, I didn't have those problems. So I
Yes.
would just say MCAA being amazing in that you find that, oh, you're not alone, stop complaining and be happy that you didn't go through other people's mess. So yeah, so the program is great. And of course, it's also a highly regarded program. So it gives you opportunities to further develop both professionally and personally.
And regarding MSCA, and also, by the way, EURAXESS, we are like supporting researchers not only in geographical mobility, but also intersectoral mobility. What do you take a word about that? Have you experienced intersectoral mobility?
So yes, I have experienced intersectoral mobility. After my PhD, I decided to take a break for health and family reasons, but also I would say a bit of burnout after a very intensive PhD. So I went and worked outside of academia in National Health Service in England. So just doing data analysis and program managing. So like completely different set of skills, but this was amazing in terms of developing me from a completely different perspective. So I would say that, in academia, you have different ways of working, and also you have it outside of academia where I don't want to say deadlines, in academia, you also have deadlines, but you have to be a bit more, okay, this is the deadline. If something didn't work, I have to forget about it and move on. I'm not going to now spend 2 weeks pondering about why this molecule is not the molecule I wanted. So, and also meetings, just attending meetings with agenda very specific, kind of maybe moving much more fast forward than in research. But well, this is just maybe my perspective.
Now, I wanted, to reflect a little bit on impact. From academia, like you definitely have this publication, for example, or lecture, or coaching, or mentoring someone, or whatever it could be. And here, this your sector was like governmental sector, where this impact is a little bit. left for the future. I would say.
In a way, yes, but I think that's very important to understand what transferable skills are. So what I've learned, I can now transfer to the governmental setting. So, for example, and this is actually both ways, because then I did actually return to research, which I hopefully will speak about next. But maybe kind of going back to the government. So I had a really good background in analytics. I understood how to analyze and, like importance of baselines, of statistics, of true evidence, etc. So this was one. Um, and just, yeah, I would say generally, as long as you understand the skill, you can, make it transferable and applicable. Yes, to some extent, you could feel that, okay, I'm no longer publishing, I'm no longer doing this. But what I really liked working in the NHS in England was that I was making an impact. So we analyzed a situation, and then we actually could change the policy guidance for the hospital. So, for example, if a test was done on a lady who came into delivery and the results arrived 12 or 24 hours later and she left, because if you had a natural normal delivery, you can leave really quickly in England. So there's no point of doing this test, because the test arrives when she has already been discharged. So things like that were really rewarding. So I think in research, we just are kind of trained to wait long for the results, whereas in NHS,
Yes.
you could really feel you've made an impact. Okay, you've analyzed it, you prepared a report, and people were able to act on it. And then I was also involved in creating evaluation policy. So when I worked across hospitals, so I was involved in creating evaluation policy and how we assess programs in the community. So again, I could put my kind of researcher hat on and talk to people and say these are the metrics, but also how we can also involve qualitative metrics, and just what steps we need to take in terms of finances, outputs, and future plans. So no, I think definitely the transferable skills are there. And it's just, well, it was fun actually to transfer those. Yeah.
And with such a positive perspective on the industry side, let's say, I'm used to that term since I'm in mechanical engineering, what drew you back to academia? What's the thing that made you switch again?
Very difficult question. I don't know. I just missed research so much, honestly. So I think this is really what I can say. So, whilst this was quite rewarding with seeing fast results and being needed and valued, that's also important. I don't say in academia you're not valued, but they're honestly valued, that, oh, perfect, you've prepared this report, we know what to do now. I actually missed that what I said you no longer can do outside of academia, as sitting on this particular molecule and thinking why it doesn't work in endometriosis or something like this. I just missed this maybe reflection part and this kind of creative, a bit widely creative part. So yeah, and I decided, okay, I'm going to try it. If I fail, then I fail, but I was able to come back. So, and then again, the transferable skills. So while working in the governmental setting, you learn to manage people, you learn budget setting, you learn just kind of financial and leadership. You learn leadership, and then those skills are the skills you need as a PI. So
This is actually something that researchers usually state as very challenging to communicate research into policy. So that's why I have another question. But how challenging it was, how responsive the policy is in this respect, especially like healthcare. It's and policy as such cannot change so quickly, maybe as it is necessary.
yes, so at times we couldn't, oh, that's true. Working in NHS, we couldn't, even with the reports showing, different data, we couldn't really change everything. But at the same time, I think policies, well, it's very responsible, you have to be very responsible patient healthcare. So you cannot be very quick with changing. You really have to make sure that all the data is there, everybody has considered everything. Remember, as an analyst, I have a particular view, but clinicians will have a different view. So in a way, it's good that policy doesn't change that quickly. On the other hand, from my experience, I would say that with working with the evaluation policy of community programs, people were very much on board, because in the end, if you are supposed to fund something and then in 2 years' time they want to reapply for funding, they also want to show their positive impact. And the way to show it is with data and also with qualitative descriptions. But you have to have some sort of, so basically, we needed a framework to assess different programs so that there is some sort of comparator between them. So again, maybe my experience was just positive.
And coming back to mobility programs, what do you see as the biggest opportunities on one hand and drawbacks on the other hand that they provide?
Yes, so I think we've touched a bit, but maybe, yeah, so let's start with the opportunities. So if it's a program, as we've said, then it's a framework, and you have the money, you have the position, you have the project. So in a way, you know why you're going and where you're going, and you can, and it can serve as a kind of a fallback security mechanisms, right? Because if somebody questions something, you already have everything lined up, so you know what you're doing. And definitely as a researcher, well, I just think research is a bit about mobility, because you want to experience different views from different researchers. So you're now suddenly moved, you're in a different research setup, and maybe somebody comes up with an idea that you would never get from your home institute, because you would maybe never collaborate with, I don't know, a different division or something. And just generally for your own development, just networking, meeting other people. And well, research is all about communicating it and working with others, I think, because in the end you want to, I don't know, help design something or help somebody feel better. So it's all about collaboration. So I think mobility programs are very good for that, and just for generating new ideas, coming up with new inventions, and just seeing your research from a different perspective.
And
On the
testing,
side,
critically testing from with the peers. Like, what do you think about that? No, I'm 100% not into it, or something like that.
yeah, that's true. Because if you're based somewhere and you've been selling your story for a long while, everybody will go ahead with it. When you move somewhere, they'll say like, "No, it doesn't make sense." So yeah, so I think that's this critical. Yeah, exactly. Critical testing and just discussions are very fruitful and rewarding. Now, on the flip side, moving to new country and moving, especially with the mobility program, I'll say from my own experience, is so you can be a bit out of kind of place, because it's a new institute, and like you know you kind of need to fit in there. Or sometimes I would say a host institution can treat you a bit of like an outsider, because you kind of came from somewhere and you have certain ideas, or you think certain things work this way but they work differently, so there are little tensions there. But for me the biggest is a career precarity. So let's say you may have a long-term or open-ended contract, and you decide to take your Marie Curie fellowship, which is only for 2 years, and then what? Because
Yes.
you've traded the safety for the development and for the research you wanted to do, but it can really impact your own life, your family, and your financial situation as well. So I think this should also be taken into account when somebody wants to go. But I guess I would definitely say still go, but remember that there can be a time where it will be a bit more stressful and precarious.
What's your suggestion for that time? Do you have any solution?
I think for me, it's always talking to people and finding out how they dealt with it, and also discussing with your mentor, because obviously within Marie Curie you have your mentor, so you can be upfront, about it. That yes, say you want to stay. What are my options? And you have to explore them quite early, because if there are no options, you also want to know quite soon. But to be honest, can you really prepare for what's going to happen? To some extent, yes. But I will also think that some people just ended up, with the end of contract and being really prepared, but hey, it didn't work out. So I think it's a trade-off between staying in the same spot or moving, but experiencing a bit more risk. I'm a bit more risk taker, and I like change. So yes.
So yeah, it also maybe depends on the character of the person. If you take up the risk, and then yeah, you definitely understand how it could impact you afterwards. So I understand actually, like, your advice to early career researchers signed up for it and test and try. As we know, with Marie Skłodowska-Curie applications, you can easily end up with no funding. Then try again. And what your advice would be to the, like, to everyone, how to have a healthy life? What could be? Is there something that that could impact, like, in a better way, our health? Usual stuff.
Oh,
Sport, sleep, vaccination.
I think it's really difficult, and I think you would find lots of YouTubers addressing the issue.
Yeah.
I would say good work-life balance, which can be a problem with mobility programs
Yes.
because you go somewhere else where you don't really, you have to rebuild your work-life balance. And you sometimes have to struggle with your host university seeing things differently than you. So that was something that I struggled with for a while. Um, but I would, yeah, I just really investing in your health with good, good food and sport and everything. So the usual that everybody advises, but somehow it's so very difficult to adopt when you're rushing to achieve something or to do something. So yeah.
And finally, from your enormous experience, how do you imagine the future of mobility in Europe? Do you have any suggestions on what can be done better, on what we should expect is going to be realistically done in the next 10, 20 years?
So definitely, I'm always, as I said, research mobility in Europe, and I'm grateful to the Marie Curie program, and obviously would like it to continue and grow. Uh, in terms of one thing that I'm also again passionate about is the greater acceptance for those non-linear pathways when somebody goes out and comes back. Because when you come back, there are like issues that you no longer qualify for funding because years from your PhD have passed, but you haven't done proper research. It's also very difficult to prove on your CV that you could do the job because the last employment is some sort of program manager. So how are you going to be a postdoc? So my kind of advice would be to just for the mobility program, I don't know if it's possible, but think about support. I don't know, a support network for people who are finishing their 2 years and they don't know what to do next because they've moved countries, no longer have a contract where they used to. And finally, I know this is something that my MCA is talking about, a consideration for retirement options, because we're moving a lot. And then, where does our retirement then come from if you're going different countries and struggling? Because as a researcher, you don't really have much time to now invest time in checking what are the retirement options in one country and you move to another, and have you taken every paperwork you needed? So I don't know. This is something that I've heard MCA talking, and I'm actually quite on board with that. So yeah, support after the 2 years, if one can be given. Definitely pro mobility. I think it's also mobility programs are so like advice for early researchers. Great time to reflect what you want to do, because first you have to write your project. So you have to think, what is it that I really want to do? Because normally you wouldn't write something you don't want to do. And then you have the 2 years to test yourself as a PI and see, okay, where you want to go with that, career-wise and project-wise. Yeah.
Okay, good. Something to for MCAA to explore is resaver, probably, that European Commission is introducing for organizations to make sure that researchers who are, as usual, if you are excellent researcher, you are traveling very much, and you cannot be stick to with one university and that's it, with that one institution. So you have also it is something, but it's on institutional level, not on a personal level, something to consider for them also. Maybe we can come up with some kind of ideas on a personal level that should be explored and provided also as an information for researcher. Definitely something to think about. And Thank you, Monika.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the EURAXESS Smart Talks podcast.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode and can't wait to share more with you next time.
You can follow us and find more episodes on the EURAXESS portal, our social media profiles, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
This episode was prepared by hosts Daria Aksenova and Jovan Aranđelović, editor Isar Peer, and is dedicated in memoriam of Professor Miroslav Trajanović.